He made 3 albums. He sold roughly 4,000 copies across all 3 of them while he was alive. He gave almost no interviews. He barely performed live. Toward the end, he could not leave his childhood bedroom. He was 26 years old when he died. Today, 50 years later, millions of people listen to him every single month on Spotify. Most of them were born after he was already gone. This is the story of Nick Drake. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This is the kind of story I tell every week. Nick Drake was born in 1948 in Rangoon. His family was in Burma temporarily and grew up in Tanworth in Arden, a village in Warwickshire, England. His mother Molly was a musician in her own right. She wrote her own songs and recorded them at home on a tape machine when no one was listening. Something of that private interior relationship with music passed directly to her son. He was, by every account, exceptional from the beginning. He played guitar and piano, wrote songs unlike anything his peers were writing, and carried himself with a stillness that people found hard to describe. He studied briefly at Cambridge before it became clear that what he needed to do was not in any university. Joe Boyd, a producer who had worked with Fairport Convention and knew something about finding unusual talent, heard a demo tape and immediately signed him to Island Records. Nick Drake was 20 years old. He had a record deal and 3 albums in him, and he had almost no ability to do the thing that a record deal required. He could not perform, not in any normal sense. He had played a handful of shows in 1969 and 1970, and the reports from people who saw them share the same detail. He would get up on a small stage or in a folk club, and he could not look at the audience. He would play facing away, or with his head down, or simply stop mid-set and walk off. Audiences were confused. Some were cruel. He stopped performing almost completely after that. His first album, 5 Leaves Left, came out in 1969. The production was lush and extraordinary. Joe Boyd surrounded Drake's guitar and voice with string arrangements, written by his Cambridge friend Robert Kirby. People who actually heard it, were astonished. Almost nobody heard it. Brighter Later followed in 1970. More arrangements, more musicians, a slightly more accessible sound. Drake hated it. He felt it was too dressed up, too produced, too far from what he meant. The album sold even less than the first one, and then he made Pink Moon. In October 1972, Nick Drake booked 2 nights at Sound Technique Studio in London. He brought his guitar. He brought John Wood, the engineer who had worked on his previous records and who understood him better than almost anyone. He did not bring a producer, an arranger, a band, or anyone else. In 2 nights, he recorded the album alone. His voice, his guitar, one brief piano figure on the title track that he played himself. No overdubs, no strings, no arrangements. 11 songs, done. He let a few weeks pass. Then one afternoon he took the master tape, the finished record, and walked into the Island Records offices. He didn't call ahead. He didn't make an appointment. He walked up to the reception desk, left the tape with whoever was sitting there, and left. He didn't go upstairs to meet anyone. He didn't tell anyone he was coming. Island Records staff found the tape on the desk and played it in a state of confusion. What were they supposed to do with this? It was stark, minimal, almost uncomfortably intimate. There were no singles in it. There was almost nothing to promote. They released it because he was on their roster, and they had the tape. Pink Moon sold around 1,000 copies in its first year. Nick Drake went home to his parents' house in Tamworth in Arden. He had been struggling with depression for years. His friends described a gradual withdrawal that had been happening since at least 1971. John Martin, who was close to him, watched him disappear in increments. There were brief periods of relative stability, attempts to record new material, conversations about trying again. He spent time at a psychiatric facility. He came home. He stayed in his room. On the morning of November 25, 1974, his mother found him in his bedroom. He had taken an overdose of amitriptyline, the antidepressant he had been prescribed. The coroner returned a verdict of accidental death. Whether it was deliberate or a terrible miscalculation with medication he had been taking for years, nobody will ever know for certain. He was 26 years old. His 3 albums sat on shelves, or didn't, because most of them had never been stocked in the first place. Island Records kept them in print almost as an act of faith. A small group of musicians knew his work. Robert Smith of The Cure mentioned him. Paul Weller mentioned him. Musicians who had found the records by accident and been changed by them. For 25 years, that was the story. A musician who made 3 extraordinary records, sold almost nothing, and died young. Then, in 1999, a Volkswagen advertising agency was putting together a commercial for the Cabriolet convertible. They needed a song, something that felt open and free and night sky and young. Someone played them Pink Moon. They licensed it for 30 seconds. The commercial ran in the United States and showed 4 young people in a convertible under an enormous sky full of stars. 30 seconds of a song made in 2 nights in a London studio in 1972 by a man who was dead. The commercial won awards. The album re-entered the charts. People who had never heard the name Nick Drake went and found every record he ever made. Today he has millions of monthly listeners on Spotify. People who stream his albums constantly, who discover him the way he never discovered his own audience in his lifetime. Pink Moon appears on best album lists alongside records that sold tens of millions of copies. 5 Leaves Left is studied in music schools. His mother's home recordings, the songs Molly Drake made alone on a tape machine when no one was listening, were eventually released and found their own audience too. He left his last album on a receptionist's desk and walked away. The world spent 25 years catching up. If this story stayed with you, click the video on your screen right now. I promise it will hit the same way.